But before we start, Mr. Muiwa, can you please like introduce yourself briefly, what you do, where you're based, how you got into tech. So you can just share that briefly, and then Tomiwa would go ahead to
Yeah, yeah,
talk
sure.
to.
Thank you for the opportunity. Like you already said, my name is Muiwa without the Mister. Um, I'm currently based in Berlin, and I'm currently a senior full stack engineer at Meister Labs. And basically, I've been doing software development for the past 10 to 11 years now, and
Okay.
I've taken on different roles. Most recently, I was actually an engineering manager for like 3 years before moving back into an IC role. So this topic is actually very dear to me as well. And yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for that. So, and that was one of the reasons why we brought you like as one of our panelists, because we know that you have been both as an like people management, you've been into the people management, and then you went back to IC. So of course I have many questions. Why was there something you saw and then you ran away or something, or is there something that you want us to know about? But we'll be asking that later on. Mr. Tomiwa, can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, hi, Lana Tech Platform. My name is Tomiwa. I am the first son of my mother, and I am a staff engineer at a company called Personio, where we try to unlock the power of people for businesses across the world. I have been into tech. I've been a software engineer throughout my career. I experienced the fast start, so I went through many of the early growth cycles,
Okay,
and so far I think it's been a good experience for me. I live in London. I
okay,
started in Nigeria, but I currently live in London.
okay, okay. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so let's just go right into it. I think one of the things we said we are going to focus on was office politics. Before we start asking how to play it, what we should do, and all of that, what is office politics, first of all? What does it entail? Eh, When we hear politics, especially Nigerians or people from Africa, probably it connotes something bad, something evil. What is office politics? What does it entail? Is it even good to participate in it and all of that? So maybe we'll start with Muiwa.
Um, I might be coming this from a bit left field because my
Okay,
opinion might be a bit different, but I don't like to refer to it as office politics.
okay.
I refer to it as relationship building.
Mm,
And the reason I say this is because when you look at it as politics or whatever, you start to see it as another thing that you just have to do, and you do
mm,
it half-heartedly, and
mm,
it's like you're pretending basically. You won't survive doing that in the long run, and you're gonna get exhausted very quickly. And in terms of, is it something that we should do? No, I mean you don't have to do anything,
oh,
but I like to always say you don't have to do anything, right? But you should do it. So that's it. You don't have to do it, but you should build relationships, right? It's very important. You should build relationships, and that involves relationship not just within your team, but outside of your team. Most importantly, outside of your team, right? Yeah.
okay, okay. Thank you very much. So Muiwa I said it's not office politics. It is relationship building. Tomiwa, do you have something different from what he has said? Maybe you want to add to it. Maybe it's more than relationship building.
No, I think well, it depends on what you call politics, right? So in the tech space, and I'm referring to software engineers here, or someone who is involved in some sort of engineering, where half of your job, or potentially more than that, is just putting your head down and writing code.
Okay.
If that's the space you operate in, then you are not working in a vacuum. The first thing is you need to work on stuff, right? How
Mm,
do you find the things to work on? If you're very lucky and you're early in your career, someone tells you what to do. Then when you find the stuff to do, you now need to do it. If you're a genius, you would figure it out all the time. If you're like me, most half of the time you know what you're doing, which means you need to find out who can help you. Then you need to trade social capital. Like someone, you're helping someone, but someone is helping you, but you have to help them with something else.
mm,
So to know who to ask, because it's not like you're going to go through and start finding who is in this department and what do they do. You need to know these people and have some sort of, I don't know, like goodwill credits with them. So you can quickly ask, hey, can I book like 3 minutes of your time or 20 minutes of your time? I'm stuck with this. Please help me. and it's not seen as an official thing, like you're bringing someone involved into the thing, but you can get this indirect way of asking for help. That's one
Okay.
thing. And then when it needs to transition into something even official, then you can actually still go through the same approach. But the more people you know,
Okay.
who the more people you know, the easier your life is going to be.
Ah, wow. Okay. That's another dimension. So, are you trying to say that I should, for example, now I work remotely. I only, unfortunately, I mind my business. I just do my work and 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock I'm off. So how do I meet people? You said the more people I know, the more social capital I would probably have. How would I like achieve that? Especially when if I'm shy. I know we had a discussion around being an introvert last time. I don't know if you want to touch up on that again, Tomiwa.
So, building social capital is not only about talking to people, it's
Okay,
really about just participating. For
okay,
example, someone raises a merge request or a request to merge something into a repository, give them feedback, give your opinion, that sticks in their head. Some conversation is going on in Slack, participate and share your own opinion.
okay.
The more presence you show through work, the more your name shows up to stand
Wow.
for something. Even if you're an introvert, just do your work and then you find out that you're showing up in places that people tend to remember you for. And when you finally need help, it's easy to find that. Well, you might not know where to find help, but they would remember you for showing up in places that was important to them.
Okay, okay, okay. So it's more than just probably um trying to do I say form, you say it's more than just relationship, being involved in activities, letting your name pop up maybe in Slack conversations, in MR reviews and all of that. Okay, okay, thank you very much. I have another question, Mr. Maybe this should go to Mr. Muiwa now. um is there any downside to not doing all these that you suggested? So we've suggested, now they've suggested that we are involved in merge requests, meetings, just booking time, getting allowing your name to be seen, or that's if you work remotely and then maybe at work, just being involved. What if I don't do this? Is there a downside to this? Is there a disadvantage?
Okay, so I like to use real life examples. When I was at Shopify, right, in my team, I had a senior engineer. I wouldn't say senior engineer, but there was a senior engineer who was there way before me. Very good guy. And he felt he was due to get promoted to become a staff engineer, right? Now, the thing at Shopify is the way we do promotions is that you have to submit like a document
Yes.
um, arguing for your promotion, but you have to get at least 3 to 5 people outside of your team um, to co-sign this document, right? Um, he wasn't really able to do that, and why was that? Because he wasn't really visible outside of the team, right? He didn't really participate outside of the team, kind of what Tomiwa was touching on, right? There are things going on in Slack. People are having conversations around tech tech conversations. It doesn't have to be personal conversations, right? It could be around like, oh, we're thinking of adding this tech to this project. Who are any experience with it? Well, this kind of conversations, right? And it didn't just have that, right? And he created a scenario where he wasn't able to be promoted. Like he did everything, he submitted. It was really good. It's not he was on my team, so I know how good it was, right? But unfortunately, he couldn't really get the promotion just because of that visibility was just simply not there, right? Um, and it's the same thing even when I was an engineering manager as well. Uh, there was somebody on my team. I mean, I person was there before I joined, and I always felt, yeah, this person probably deserves a raise, right? And I tried to coach them through this, but they they also had that same mentality of, yeah, I'm just gonna write my code and my code is gonna speak for me,
Hmm.
right? But I had to coach them through, how to gain visibility. You're doing stuff, put it out there, document what you're doing, share some random newsletters about what you've done and how that has impacted the business, right? And your role within that thing. Share it. Nobody's gonna say don't share it, right? Make sure you're visible. And if you don't do all of this, then the downside is that when you're looking for people to help you, people to support you, or help you even through whatever problems you're having, in the company, right? Nobody's going to advocate for you because, well,
Wow.
nobody really knows who you are. And advocation is a very strong currency because if I'm standing for someone, technically I'm also putting myself on the line, right? So
Yes.
I'm not gonna stand on your behalf or advocate for you in any scenario, be it promotion, be it you're trying to do something, you want to join another team. If I see that, I don't see that, I don't know you, right? I just know you as a name on Slack. That's all. I don't know who you are, right? So it's that's the downside. The downside is that you wouldn't really get people to advocate for you in different circumstances. It's just the truth.
Hmm.
I mean, I wish it wasn't like that. I wish you could just write your code and do your pull request and hey, you have 10 contributions this month. Yeah, it is the truth of it is it's simply not that way, right? Yeah.
Okay, yes. Wow. Thank you so much for that. I remember maybe some years, maybe 2 years, still recently when I was um of course performance evaluation, that's period where you are doing reviews and all of that. I remember always compiling list of MRs I've done. I would like fetch on GitLab or GitHub the number of merge requests, the period, and all of that. And unfortunately, I was not promoted. So I think I see why. It's not about the number of MRs, but people seeing the value I bring to the table. Unfortunately, like I said, I've always been, I say, a quiet member of the team. So, okay, thank you very much. So, still on visibility, Tomiwa, what does visibility really mean? Visibility for a tech professional, I mean, cybersecurity, I mean, in practice, what does that mean?
So if I was going to create like an axis of visibility, like just to separate like two extremes. So one side is very personal. Hey, my dog, I brought my dog to work today. Come and play with my dog. Or let's go out for coffee, or let's go out for a comedy show. Let's do the very social, people-oriented things. Let me check on your birthdays. Let me know when your 1 year anniversary is. Let's put that on the social like side of things. Like so that's one full wing. And on the other extreme, the far right, the other extreme of that thing, it's more like technical visibility. So
Okay.
you showing up in work that is not your work, that belongs to other people, which is showing up in MRs, reviewing documents, writing and arguing on Slack for the things you care about or don't care about. Anything technical that looks in that domain is like one whole extreme away. For some, one side might be easy for you, one side might be difficult for you, but you need a blend of the two of them depending
Okay.
on what you're trying to achieve. For
Mm,
example, as a manager, I probably would assume that you're spending more time on the social side because you need to build outside of your domain. But as a very technical person who just likes to write code, you can spend time on this side. The way to look at it is if you look at the organization, right? The organization is just one machine that's trying to do something. You need to play your part in a way that every person in the organization, when they point at your domain, they can recognize you.
mm,
For example, if you're in London and someone says, "Who are the engineers in London?" they should be able to say, "Hey, this person is an engineer in London." If they say, "Are you working on the, I don't know, like the payments team?" Or they're trying to point at the engineers and payments team and they're trying to figure out who are the engineers there, they should be able to point at you based on what you do. There are many opportunities. It's not the same. You don't have to go for coffee shops all the time. There's a freakish load of opportunities to do it. But in the sum total of it, every time you ask the question to different people, do you know, define your domain, and they don't know you, then there's something you're not doing well.
mm. So what should I do then? Okay. I hope I'm not repeating myself again. So what okay, you said I should show up in conversations, MRs and all of that, and maybe be a bit personal kind of. Okay. So now we've been talking about from the perspective of working remotely.
Mhm.
Of course, we have quite a number of people that are joining in. They work from the office. They are juniors. They don't write code. Probably they are designers. Probably they are cybersecurity professionals. What would your advice be to them, Tomiwa?
So from day one, the first thing to do is just meet people. So when you join a company for the first time, everybody assumes you're a rookie and you can do no wrong.
Wow.
That is the time to book a call with the CEO, book a call with the everybody. They would not tell you, no, I mean, don't do the CEO if your company is too big, but book a call with everybody because at that time, nobody's assigning you a lot of work. So this is a time to really understand what's going on with them and then try to understand, know what you can go to them for and also let them know what they can come to you for. It's going to be slow. That's why more tenured people have better relationships, but it takes time. But try to connect with as many people as possible. Now, think about the connection game as if I reach out to, like, when you join, you usually have a manager if you're lucky. The person tell you meet these two people, and then play the game of when you meet these two people, ask them, show me two other people I should meet. They'll give you two
Mhm.
to meet. At some point, you meet those two people, they ask you two more people. At some point, you end up with this massive web of people. It'll be too much people by then. You start to see overlaps and you start to see where to stop when it starts to not give you much more, I don't know, presence, or where you're meeting someone and the person already knows you. There's no need to meet the person because you've met the person already. That's
Okay.
the one-to-one game.
Okay, okay, thank you. Because you were still saying things like booking a call. I want us to lay some emphasis on at least working from the office. I don't know if Muyiwa wants to add anything to that. Let's say I'm not a rookie. Let's say I've been in the office for 3 years already. The people already know me as someone that I mind my business. What's that thing I can maybe new, I say habits, practices I can like take up, imbibe now that I want to take my
Yeah.
visibility more seriously at work, and I've been an employee for some years. So he talked
So,
about being a rookie. Then I don't know if you have another perspective.
so you're talking about with someone who is in the office now, right? Not
Yes, yes,
remotely.
he's working from the office.
So the good thing is that for the tech side, you don't really need to be in the office, whether you're in the office or remotely. For the tech side, you can mostly do everything because you're doing it from a computer. For the social side, it really helps when it's in the office. I'm gonna be honest. I don't like office work either. I prefer working remotely. Um, I've been working remotely for most of my career, and I prefer it. But if you're in the office, I mean, we have like things around. You can have lunch breaks. You can have lunch breaks together with people, right? You kind of target people. You know when they're going for lunch. You know when this person is going for lunch. You try to what's I don't want to use the word kidnap or use the word catch them, but you try to find a suitable time where you can have off the cuff conversations with people, right? Because the thing about the office is that everybody is kind of sitting on the desk, but you should be able to find a little bit of moments where you can have off the cuff conversations with folks, like talk to them, especially if if you're new. Yes, most likely you need to do this definitely, but if you're old, then you can. If you're kind of like an older person or an older folk within the organization, you kind of already know who you need to have a relationship with, right? So you're not playing guessing games at this point in time, right? You know who you should have a conversation with, you know who you should talk to, you know who you should have lunch with, who you should have coffee with. You also can also even go a bit further. I always tell people, like, if you can organize like even meetups within the office, you can organize knowledge sharing sessions, right? That are open cross team. Is for me is one of the that's one of the things that I like to do is cross team knowledge sharing. Like, start a back end guild, start a front end guild. Nobody's going to tell you not to start it. Like, these are the things that you can do, right? Because as a rookie, you're not going to go start a back end guild or a front end guild. Like, nobody's going to take it seriously. But as a tenured folk, right, you've been there for a while. If people are looking up to you like, oh, this guy's been here for 4 years, he probably knows a bit more than we do, but it's just there, right? So when you come out of your shell and then you start to do these things, people will kind of will give you that respect because they're already expecting it from you in any way, right? So it's not left for you to then take advantage of that and show some visibility, show some initiative, mentor people, and for me that's one of the ways to do that, right?
Okay, okay, yes. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Please, for people joining in, feel free to send in your questions on the comment section, or you use the this link. onlinequestions.org, and then you use event number 12121. Thank you. So, okay, let's move to the next question. Can we now talk about strategic moves? So when we were like sharing, I say the like posting about this event, some of the things we said we are going to talk about was strategic moves. What do we mean by strategic moves? What kind of moves can hop, like they change jobs frequently, and for people like that, I think their goal is trying to um probably increase their take home. I've heard people say that if you remain in a company for too long, the highest you can get is just that merit increase, especially if you are doing your work now. If you are doing your work, you're just getting that top of that merit increase. And so people try to change jobs when they want to probably get an increase in their salary, or they want some kind of promotion. So for example, if they feel they should have been a senior or a senior one, or they have been promoted to a mid engineer from a junior, and probably at their office, maybe there's some kind of rule that you can't move to the next step until the person at the top, the upper step leaves the company or something like that. And so people try to change their jobs frequently. So I'm just giving you an example of a strategic career move. So are there other moves that one can take like that you want to share with us? Um, and then what we can like, get out of those kind of moves, just in case you've not mentioned them earlier. And let's start with Muiwa. Or
Yeah,
do you need some time?
this is a tricky one because for me, it, strategic moves for me depends on what you're looking for and what you want from your career. We want different things from our career. I've managed someone who said I don't want a promotion, right? Because yeah, he just had two kids and it's like, nah, right now I don't want the added responsibility of being a staff engineer, right? I like how I'm a senior engineer, it's within my team. I don't want to do any cross team collaboration, right? And that's okay. That's also a strategic move. It doesn't always have to be like strategic movies. You're getting somewhere higher, right? Um, but another type of strategic move, for example, is moving from an IC role to a manager role, and from manager role to an IC role. Again, it depends on what the person is looking for and what you're looking for. To make a strategic move, first of all, you need to understand what you're looking for, right?
Okay.
What do you want? What do you want? That's the most important thing you need to ask yourself. Like, what do you want? And
Okay.
if you can figure out what you want, then you start figuring, okay, how do I get what I want? How do I get to this place? Right? You look at the company you are in. Is there an opportunity within this company to achieve what I want to achieve? Sometimes there is, and unfortunately, sometimes there isn't. And that's why you probably have people. Um, if your what you want is more salary, obviously the easiest way to get it is usually to move. That's usually the easiest way to get it because hiring budgets are usually higher or bigger than
Okay.
salary increase budgets. It's just the way it is. And
Okay.
so yeah, for me, the most important thing is figuring out what you want to do, um, and then looking for the path or the clearest path to achieving that.
Okay. Okay. So what if what I'm trying to achieve is more um I say for example, if I want to be promoted and I want to remain in that office, I don't want to change jobs. Is there anything you want to suggest I can do?
So if you're within a company and you want to gain promotion, like for example, some companies would have a job leveling framework, right? You have a job leveling framework, you go through it. What do I need? Where am I? You judge yourself first before you even speak to your manager, because your manager is not gonna do that for you. Like the manager is there to help. It's not there to drag you along, right? Figure out where you are and what you need to do to get to the next level, and then talk to your manager about it. Talk to your manager about opportunities to get to the next level. That's what he's there for. He's there to help you provide opportunities for you to actually then do what you want to do. And in some cases, it might not be the opportunity might not be present in that team. Talk to your manager about it. This also points into the fact of having relationships, right? If you have relationships outside of a team, you are aware of what's happening in other teams. You know when there's about to be a role opening on the team. You know when there's about to be a new team being formed, right? this all kind of ties together. If you're just in your own space within your team, you can't have access to this information, and you're just gonna be there, right? So always have access to information of things that are going on around. Know who's leaving, who's about to leave. Know which team, know what team is expanding. Know what team is being recreated. Know what opportunities are going on within the company. I always say it's usually better when you get promoted within the same company,
Mm,
because when you get promoted, when you go to another company and you get a promotion, you're battling two things. You're battling your new role and you're battling the new business, right?
mm,
It's much better if you already know the business and then you get a promotion. You have a little bit more context already. So you're mostly going to be focused on the tech side of things. And the business side of things is kind of a bit clear for you. So for me,
mm.
I would always advocate get promotion within the company you are. Look for that opportunity. Have conversations with your manager. That's what the manager is there for. Use your manager. It's don't use your one-on-one time to talk about like um, code and stuff. No, that's not what your one-on-one time is for. Your one-on-one time is for your self-improvement, your personal improvement, not the ticket you did last week. Use your time very well. That's it.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, Tomiwa. I don't know if you want to add to this. I said.
All right, strategic moves. I'll try to cover the jumping company framework or how to choose whether to stay or go. I'll look at it again from two dimensions. The first one is is evaluating how much scope you currently have to work on, which is what's the size of your project or what's the size of the impact of the project you're currently working on, which also directly affects what's the size of the current company you're in. But you need to be honest about what your current maximum impact could be in the current role you're in that company. If you choose to switch companies, always try to make sure that wherever you switch to, you believe that you get access to more scope. If you don't get access to more scope, I'm not convinced it's a better option. I think you probably should stay where you are and move up. But if you're switching laterally, try to get more scope. The reason why is if you go back in your career, like you just paint your story backwards, and you need to write what you did every year. You want to make sure what you achieved every year is bigger than what you did last year. So technology is increasing, or the amount of things you can get done in a shorter amount of time is increasing. There's Gen AI now, and uh, a lot of things that could help with creative coding. And we are now all coding on vibes, which means the output you need to have is multiplying. So if you find opportunities to do more, because in your career story, the long running picture, every year you do more prepares you for a bigger story the next round. That's the first one. So just evaluate where your impact is and then play that correctly. The second one is around the size of the opportunity you're playing with. So different companies value engineers differently. Some companies see engineers as here's our sole bread and butter. We'll invest a lot in these people, and there'll be usually a clear growth framework on how to make it and clear problems in that space. Some companies, on the other hand, see engineers as people who just get things done. So more like they're not contractors, but just here's some work, please go and get it done. And that's not the core. It's not the core resource that the company has, but it's an enabler for something else. You need to decide which kind of company you're in. If you're in the company that prioritizes you, then you know that you can push the company to help you grow. If you're in a company that prioritizes other initiatives that is not you, then you have to figure out how to create the same growth story for yourself, which could be in the same company or in a different company. But growing on the engineering ladder usually has to do with increasing scope on the highest level. Now, this is not the visibility side or the how you need to sell the case, but in general, you cannot err on the side of increasing scope.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay. You want?
Just to add to that, talking
Okay.
about the increase in scope, because otherwise the only thing that would just happen is a change in title, right? You will still be the same person, right? You were mid-level doing this much, and then you're a senior, you're still doing this much. It's like, who are we kidding?
Hmm.
You haven't made any change. Your LinkedIn just changed. That's the only thing that has changed. Your person, yourself as a developer hasn't changed, right? So you have to make sure that, yeah, you have that. for me, it's also kind of one of the reasons why I left Shopify was because of that, right? I was a senior engineer at Shopify, but the team I was on was too easy, right? I was a senior engineer in name only, right? But the scope of the work was just like it's stuff that I could wake up, like I could sleep and just do it. Uh, and I tried my best to kind of look for it, but it was Shopify is too big and it's too segmented, and I was like, yeah, and that's what I understood when people talk about like sometimes in Google, some people take a month to change the color of a button, right? That's when I understood, like when they say things like that, it's like, and sometimes in the bigger companies, it's just what it is, and you have to figure out for yourself if that's enough for you or if you want more challenge. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. I want us to go back to the previous question about visibility. I know we talked about you being maybe a newcomer at a new office or a new role. You've been in a role for some years and you are trying to be more visible, but we've not talked about job seekers, people that are in between jobs. They're trying to, maybe they were laid off or maybe they want to change jobs and they are trying to be visible. Is that where that LinkedIn posts, regular posts, is that where it comes into play? Or what do you suggest one can do? Do I how do I be visible to at least recruiters now? Do I send them messages? Do I talk about a project I'm working on? Do I start a YouTube channel? What should I be doing to be visible? Do I change my LinkedIn profile, get a professional to help me revamp it? Or what do you think? Tell me why you've changed your jobs like multiple times. I don't know if you want to give us a hack, a tip or trick that we can.
Okay, let's be honest. The job market is a lot tougher this year than
Mm,
it's ever been, right? So things the tricks that worked a couple of years ago will not work today. So we just need to be clear about that. But having said that, yeah,
so what was working some years ago? So you can let us know
I was working
and what
7 years ago, 7, 8 years ago. It's okay to go for a boot camp and then afterwards you get a entry level job in some company. If
okay.
you go through boot camp right now, the chances of getting a job is not that great. So I'll put it a different way. So there's something that still used to work then that works now, which is that to get a job, you must have had the job. To
What does that mean?
be to be a software engineer, you must
Mm,
have been a software engineer. So if you're coming straight into it, like you're completely new, you need to provide evidence that you've done this already.
mm,
So unfortunately, the industry is not really taking a lot of entry level. I just finished, I just graduated. What do I do? So you need to create the evidence that looks like you have done the job before you get into the job. Now, the evidence is not GitHub projects. So the more real the evidence is, the more applicable in real life the evidence is, the stronger the case. Let me give an example. If you finish school and then you worked on some, you went through some GitHub, you went through things and tried to build up like new payments products and put it on GitLab
okay.
or GitHub and then put it there in your resume like, hey, I did this, I did this, I did this. Person one. Person two volunteered, I don't know, like 12 to 6 months of their time working on one particular project that is launched and was not paid for it, or was paid for it, or worked with a friend to do it, or it was an open source project, but it's live and running. That person scores higher than the other person. So you want to pack as much of those things into your story in the most creative way possible. So it's not about just creating visibility, like, hey, I just worked on this. No, you first need to put on the entrepreneurship hat, which is where can I be valuable? And there's a lot of people looking for people to help them get things done. So you
Okay.
need to have an eye for this opportunity space. And then the more, then help them out through this thing. I know it's not fair because you have to spend your time without making any money. But the way to counter that is do things you love. For example, if you're into sneakers, help a sneaker shop do something. If you're into running, help a running shop do something. But connect your passion to do something that is public, very, very important, attributable, which means that your name needs to show up that you did this, and cool. Like it has to be of high quality. Like the project should not be something that you cannot put in production. It has to be something that another company is proud to put as their primary way of making money. If
Okay.
you have those type of projects, now market the hell out of them. You just made this new button change, put it on LinkedIn, like, hey, I just did this to achieve this other thing. You just made this change. You're struggling with this particular process, which is documenting your process. Share that kind of information. Now that becomes very useful information because it's relevant. It has a clear, visible impact, and it shows the work you're doing on it. If you combine all that together on LinkedIn, it's a good story. But that's
Okay.
half the story. That's the story of your own work. Second part you need is range, or like the amount of people that are useful, like seeing what you're doing. So the way I call this is connect with everybody that you find.
Mm,
Well, you have to connect with people who are like you that you can collaborate with.
okay.
They don't have to collaborate with you, but they just have to be close enough to you and the senior version of you. If
Okay.
you surround yourself with this type of people, then when LinkedIn is suggesting who should look for one job, you start to show up in a place of someone who's already competent. Then your
Okay.
LinkedIn story is complete. You have
Wow.
the proof, and then you have the reach, and then recruits, like finding jobs or getting the maximizing LinkedIn becomes a bit easier for you.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
My
So
theory.
two things. Yeah, just a recap for people listening. Number one, I work on a project that is marketable, that is not just so, because many times we see on LinkedIn when people say they did a different version of Twitter or a different version of Facebook, it's about the same thing, only that maybe it's Facebook is already in their own version or something like that. So something that brings value, and then communicating it, telling a story on LinkedIn. Am I correct? And then the third thing is trying to connect with as many people on LinkedIn such that if on LinkedIn when they say yeah, maybe a recruiter is looking at someone's profile now, your name too pops up. Is that what you are trying to say? Did I get
Create
that
as
correct?
much attribution. Yeah.
Okay, okay, yes, okay. Thank you for that. Taking that down just in case I
One
miss.
more thing though, if you're working on something, always credit other people
Okay,
because it also increases the number of backlinks to you.
okay, 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 okay. Thank you very much. I'm noting that down. So okay, I want us to go to a new question. Please don't forget to send in your question to um you can use the if you don't want your name to pop up, you are maybe probably shy, you're not sure, just use this link onlinequestions.org, and then event number is 12121. Okay, so I would like us to talk about managers now. I know you talked about what we should be doing during our one-to-one calls. You already said that we should not use that to talk about the tickets we worked on. We should try to maximize it, talking about your career advancement and all of that. So what kind of relationship do you suggest one should have with your manager? I don't know. For me, I just noticed that everybody's a bit tense. You know, there's quite a lot of layoffs. So managers are not even like looking at our side again in Nigerian language. They are now, what did the management say again they want? And they're just, everyone is focused on the company's interest, their own personal growth, looking good for their own managers too. So for example, my manager has a manager, they themselves are trying to look good in sight of their own manager. So it's like everyone is busy working on their own goals. How can like employees navigate this kind of relationship with their manager for career advancement? Um Mewa, okay.
Yeah, that's a loaded one. It's a loaded one because um first of all, sometimes your what you're looking for might not necessarily align with what where the company is going or what the team is doing or what the manager thinks, and that's totally fair. But in for me, the kind of relationship that you should have with your manager, first of all, you should have a very good working relationship, right? It's not a must that you have.
What does that mean? So that we understand. So is it like I would like be
Uh,
carrying a bag at work? Would like to
no,
be
please don't do that.
or
It's
what?
basically that your manager can rely on you, right, in the workplace, right?
Okay.
They know that if the team is trying to do something, they can say, "Oh, this person is on it," and they have that confidence that you are on it, right? They have that trust in you, right? Because you are dependable. That's very, very important, right?
Mm,
And then on the other side of it is also that you, we've talked about this before, is that you kind of use your one-on-one time properly to find out things. Always seek feedback. Always seek feedback. Don't wait for feedback to be given to you. Always seek feedback, right? And use that feedback to improve. Don't just seek feedback for the sake of, because they say we should ask for feedback. No, take on feedback and use that to improve yourself, right? That's those, for me, those are very, very, very important. I can't stress it enough. Now, in terms of, yeah, I know right now things are a bit different from like 2 3 years ago.
okay.
Now everybody's, like you said, kind of looking out for themselves, and sometimes even managers are doing things that they don't even agree with, just because they're like, hey, the senior engineering manager wants it, um, we're gonna do it. I, you know, there's that little bit of tense thing in there, but for me, I see that as an opportunity, not a bad thing. I see that as an opportunity to make yourself valuable, right? To make yourself useful and to make yourself seen and known, right?
Mm,
If someone is saying something is important, you need to understand, talk to the person and say, understand why this is important. Also, you have skip levels, right? You can also make your manager's manager.
mm,
There's nothing against that. Do skip levels, right? It's part of, it's part of it. There's a book I read. It's about, I forgot what it's called now. Managing up for career progression, right? So you have to know how to kind of do skip level chats, right? Your manager's manager is also your resource. Use him well. Understand what he's also thinking. Understand why he's bringing this, and try to buy into it. Try to see it from their perspective, and also try to offer your own perspective as well. Try to give input. Don't just be someone who just takes and takes and takes. Try to show that you also have something to give back. And if you can build that kind of relationship together with both your manager and your skip level manager, you would find out that most of these things that are something like, oh, my manager wants it. If you understand why your manager wants it and you're able to kind of align together, then you can also see opportunities in that for yourself as well, because it's not coming to you newly. You've talked about it like a month ago, about like the idea. You're kind of aware of the idea. You've thought about the idea in your own head as well, you know. And then now that it's finally coming out, it's not new. It's not a surprise to you. You have stuff already from you, right? Right? That that yeah, that you can offer. Yeah, I know people hate being skipped, but again, it's part of the relationship building thing. You kind of need to do it, but you just have to be careful. It should not, your skip level should not be that you're reporting your manager to your manager's manager.
exactly.
That's not what skip level is for. Skip level is about building your own connection to your
Mm,
skip manager. It's not about reporting your manager. Please don't do that. You should always give direct feedback to your manager. Don't skip and say, oh, um, yeah, yeah, people, yeah. It's again, it's one of those things. But as long as your skip level is something of substance and it's not something of gossip, it's not something that is you're trying to outshine someone or whatever. You're kind of looking more for opportunities and bringing and kind of trying to understand things. Then for me, it's fine. I used to do it, and I had it done to me as well. And for me, it was never a problem, because for me, it shows that you're more interested. And it also for me is, if someone does that skip level, then it means that for me, I see that okay, there's some things I'm not offering this person, right? And for me, I take it as okay, then this person needs more things that I'm not able to give them. How can I give it to them?
okay.
For me, I take that as a challenge. I wouldn't punish you for doing that, but again, yeah, there are different kinds of people, and you need to understand who your manager is and how to deal with them. Again, managing is not an exact science; it's a social science. So
Wow.
it varies from people to people. So you need to understand the person you're dealing with or the people you're dealing with, and yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. I don't know if Tomiwa wants to add anything to it. We are gradually running out of time.
Well, I'll share one thing to not do if your manager wants you to do something, is to create your own side project and run it behind your manager. Because if you do that, they would assume you're not contributing to the company's priorities. So it's
Wow.
better to get what your manager wants done out of the way quickly and then convince them why your project is important.
Okay. Wow. Okay. 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 Noted. Chibuzo has a lot of comments. Says, I get what you mean though. like lateral skipping and less vertical skipping, except when necessary. Okay, yes, thank you so much, Chibuzo. Okay, so I know we talked about advocate. We've made some words have been like coming up frequently: advocacy, sponsors, and all of that. So I want us to look at those questions now. So, how important is it having a sponsor at work? How do you recognize them? Um, and how do you like build those kind of relationships? How do I know them? Do I go to probably meet HR? So who were the people that agreed on who were going to be promoted? Please, can I get a list of their names, or and then you start like sending them message, or I don't know if you have any suggestion as to how to identify sponsors. Like I don't mean people that pay for some. I mean maybe you can explain what who a sponsor is and how to recognize them and how to get them like on your side. Tomiwa.
Okay. So let's start with who is a sponsor. For a person to be a sponsor, they need to have influence in the
Mm,
company you're in. So just pick out the most influential people, or all the people with power in the company. They're all potential sponsors. They don't have to be your sponsor, but they all have the ability to sponsor. Now, to find one that's going to work for you, you need to figure out who do you align with the most. Tricky part. If you can score that, good job. If you can't, you need to do some more digging to understand them, because a sponsor relationship is both ways, which
okay.
means they are going to do something for you, which usually give you some good project and put you in the right opportunity. But you usually have to do something for them, which is run something they care about, make one of their problems go away, essentially. If you can have this symbiotic relationship with someone who has influence in your company, your life is going to be simple in that for that relationship. If you can't, then the part to do is invest more in understanding your sponsor. They're difficult to understand because they don't usually have time.
Mm,
So you have to do it. But the good thing is, because they are influential, their work is usually public, which is different from you. So the initiatives they're running is usually public, or it's things you can ask them. What's on your mind? What is, and to get access to them, because their time is busy, you can use your manager.
okay.
If your manager doesn't have access to it, tell your manager to use their manager. If their manager don't have access to it, tell their manager to use their manager to use their manager to get it. But your manager usually can reach everyone.
Okay. 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 Thank you very much. Um. For Muiwa, I don't know if you want to answer. Maybe around sponsorship. Is it necessary for me to have a sponsor at work? Can't I just do my work and close by 6 o'clock and greet everybody the same way? What if I can I do without a sponsor at work?
I mean, like I always say, it's not compulsory. I always tell people
But I
it's
want
not
to do
compulsory,
I want to do my career. Can't
but
I?
it is. It's not compulsory, but it is needed. Again, that's already, because again, if you don't have a sponsor, right, there are certain meetings that you are not in, right? First of all, you don't have a sponsor, you don't have someone to advocate for you. There are certain meetings that you are not in. Take for example, when I was smartly and we're doing, we have what we call the calibration round, right? You're
Yes.
not in that meeting, right? The manager is in that meeting, but your manager is your manager. His opinion is, it has weight, but it's not as weighty as other people's opinions, because your managers is like, is his manager. They've built a rapport. That's the way people would look at it naturally. But when you have other people who can speak for you because they've collaborated with you, they've talked to you, you've shown interest in their work, you've given them something, you've helped them solve a problem, they're more inclined to actually speak for you. And that's where it gets tricky. I've seen this happen several times. I've seen, I'm not gonna say his name, but there was someone, um, very good person. Smartly, he was not on my team anyway. It was another team, right? I know him to be a very good person, but it was, and smartly the bonus was tied to whatever rating you get, right? If you get like above and beyond, like internal details, this is YouTube. I'm not gonna go into that, but essentially your bonus and money is kind of closely related. And his manager gave him an exceeding expectation, right? But in the calibration round, it got moved back to meet expectation. Why? Because nobody else could actually speak on his behalf and say, hey, I know this person. This is what he's been doing. This is what he's been doing. Nobody else could actually back that up. And so it's not necessary. It's not compulsory. But if you want a fast track career, especially within an organization, you definitely do need it. If you want a fast track career, if you want things to happen, you need it. It's you need it. Otherwise, you're just going to be that person who stays there. And of course, again, we have layoffs happening every now and then. It would be nice if names are being picked for layoff and someone can kind of take out your name from that list. It would be very nice.
Yeah.
If there's someone in the room who can do that on your behalf. So
Oh,
uh,
okay. Yes, thank you so much. So what you've said is those sponsors could always speak for you, especially during promotions, maybe layoff round. You just mentioned now they would ensure that your name is not on that list. Okay, okay, thank you.
I mean,
So
they can't ensure it. They will try.
yeah,
They will try,
but
but
yes,
they're able to speak. Essentially, a sponsor is able to speak for you in a place that you're not. Right. That's it, and that is very important. There's so many meetings that go on that you don't see on calendars. There's so many meetings that go on. Before I became a manager, I never knew about all of these things. When I became a manager, I was like, wow, okay. Now, so that's why that happened. That's why my manager would say this. That's why, like, I started to see a lot of things that it's not visible to you if you're eyes. It's simply not visible. You don't know, but there are lots of meetings happening in the background. They show up as busy because they don't put the names. You just see busy, and meanwhile, it's like HR with this guy and this guy talking about like,
okay,
does this guy really deserve a promotion or not? Things like that.
okay, okay. Thank you so much for that. So we are looking at another side of advocacy now. We are looking at self-advocacy. So there's a popular saying that advocating for career advancement is ultimately your responsibility. Self-advocacy in career growth. What does this look like? How can tech professionals effectively advocate for promotions, raises, new opportunities without coming across as being pushy or entitled? I think one of the comments from Ijoma was saying not trying to like bring fellow colleagues down and all of that. So how can we go about career advancement like while being like advocating for yourself? And then how does this play out with the sponsorship, like getting a sponsor and then you advocating for yourself? Tomowa, don't know if you want to share anything about this.
Okay, so advocating for yourself. So let's pick a practical example. You did your work correctly. Before we get to practical example, so most companies are designed to make you do your job correctly. So be as productive as you can is the goal of most companies. So investing in your career growth is not very important, but making sure that you get to the highest level of competence is very important. That's why most companies encourage juniors to move up to seniors as quickly as possible or drop them off, but don't really invest a lot in seniors growing into posts beyond that part. That's one. The second one is the amount of growth beyond that point, beyond the absolute competency bar, is budget oriented, opportunity oriented. There's a lot of murkiness in how the promotions happen at that point, which also means that if nobody's helping you with through the murk, you won't get promoted. Um, it's very important to always share what you're doing,
Hmm.
mostly the impact you're having. Not what you're doing is great, but the impact you're having
Impact,
with
okay?
everyone. Now, your manager can understand what you're doing. Your skip manager usually doesn't really know about that. They only care about what's this thing you're doing and how is this bucket list of mine going away because of you. And the skip of that person cares, it becomes the higher you go, the more abstract what you're doing looks like to everybody else. Which means that every time you talk, you don't say, hey, I work on this MR. You say, the company is working on this particular thing. Here's what I'm currently doing, and here's how it helps you achieve whatever thing that is. The more of those stories you have across shining in people's minds, the better they'll know about you. Now, when it comes to okay, so promotions are tricky. Promotions up to senior is quite simple. It's do your job very well. You want to get promoted, the manager will give you an explicit path, land these things, you'll get promoted if there's budget for it. But there's a strong chance you do it. Senior plus, it's a bit weird at that time. Personal advocacy would help, but you need significant sponsorship to get the type of project that will look like a good case for you, and even takes a while even after you've gotten that. And I'm not sure advocacy would do much. I think it's relationship building that would do better at that
Okay.
front than it is advocacy. But I'd like
Okay.
to hear your perspective.
Yeah, so there's a reason why self advocacy doesn't work at that level anymore, and it's because of the expectation when you're like senior staff, you're like engineering manager. The expectation is very different from a mid-level developer, right? The scope of work is different. The people you're dealing with is different. Now you're most likely going to be doing like cross team, high level initiatives that are very sensitive and that can make or mar like the quarter, right? The goals and all of those kind of things. You're a bit more closer to the action, right? So you don't want somebody else to just you don't want everybody to just come to the action spot, right? It doesn't really work like that. Secondly, also there's usually a lot of money involved. Yeah, like when you get to that level, just gonna be being honest here, right? When you get to those levels, the salary increase is quite much, and so companies want good value for their money, right?
Good.
And if I'm looking for good value for something, right, and I want to buy something from you, you tell me very reasonable, but I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna check myself as well and see if other people can collaborate what you're saying about the product, right? Because you want to sell the product, you're gonna tell me everything nice about the product, but can somebody else verify that, yeah, this product is actually worth this money? And that's where the sponsorship comes in, right? Somebody that can actually say this about you, right? You can do all the advocacy you want. Kind of what I just said about the Shopify scenario was trying to go from senior to staff, right? You need five people to sign off and say, you need five sponsors essentially to say, yes, I know this person is very good. On this project, it did this. On that project, it did that. I got him into this project and it was very useful. When we wanted to do Shopify editions, it led the team. And we did. You need that person to actually be there in the room for you. So yes, it's very, very correct. I've seen this. It's very, very, very correct. Right. Maybe in smaller companies, you might not. Maybe in a company of like 30, 40. I don't know. I haven't really worked in those kind of spaces, but in an organization that is standard, that has things to follow, they have rubrics, they have all of that, you're not going to get to those levels by just doing like, oh, yeah, this is what is written down to get to a manager. You're not going to become a manager by doing that. You do it, you must do it, but then someone needs to say, yes, this person has done it and this person is good for it, right? Basically, it's someone, I remember like Intercontinental back in the days, if you wanted to do IT at the bank, you would require like the the card from someone who works there to attach it to your CV. If you don't, your CV gets thrown out, right? That's kind of
Wow.
that yeah, it's the truth, right? Because you need someone to say, oh, this person won't run away without money, right? So you need someone to actually say, yeah, this person is good for it, and this person is bringing value to this position if we do promote them there, right? So you can't. It's very important. I mean, if you want it, if you don't want to stay, if you want to stay, it's also fine. The only thing is that companies don't like it when you're stagnant, because if you're stagnant, it also means the company is stagnant, because it means your value, your delivery is not improving. You're not improving anything. You're just there, and the company is like, this is what you did last year. This is what you did this year. If everybody did exactly what they did last year and the next year, then the company would not grow. And that's the way companies view things, right? If everybody did the same exact thing, nobody's trying to up themselves, right? It's like, what are you doing? So you need that. You need to challenge yourself, and you just need to do. You can't escape it. I wish I knew this earlier, to be honest. Because earlier I was also like I'm just gonna write the code and raise a pull request. Like I don't even talk in Slack, right? You would never see me on Slack. It's like you would not even a thumbs up to anything. I would just do my stuff and close my laptop and I'm gone, right? It took me a while, right, to kind of understand like, oh, I was when I got to Honeypot, right? I didn't even know until someone came and some American guy just came and like, man, I just realized this guy just got like promoted and was any more than me. And meanwhile, when we lost our front end developer, I switched from back end to front end. I was doing everything. I was writing Ember and I was typing, and And this guy came within like 8 months, got promoted. I was like, oh, okay, wait, what exactly is going on? And that's when I spoke to one of my mentors, and then because he was based in the UK, and then he talked to me about how, man, you should really get this book, and then talk to me about like how these things are. I wish I had known this earlier, to be honest. I probably would be like a CTO by now or something. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So we are running out of time gradually. So let's start answering questions from the viewers. So someone says, Abiola Joseph says, what's the first thing to fix when you feel stuck in trying to attain a visible growth in your career? So what is the first thing to fix when you feel stuck in trying to attain a visible growth in your career? I don't know if you want to talk to about this, Tomiwa. Do you want to address this?
Okay. If we also move back to frameworks, if we try to split every career into three levels,
Mm,
the first one is the easy one, which is where it's the IC band, where you're doing work and your job is to get better, faster, and more productive. Then you get to you usually do this for some time, and then you use that to buy enough credibility to work at the manager band, which is the band where you're now responsible for creating more outputs than yourself. Or the manager band, you can also call that the staff band, the same thing. But the goal is you should be able to do more than yourself.
mm,
When you do that for some time, you start to grow in your career up to the point where you achieve credibility to have a stake in the pie. This is where you transition into the executive band. So think about it as you become good, and your credibility of being good makes you a manager, or gives you the potential of being a manager. You manage something that's so big that now you can actually own that whole thing, and that makes you an executive. You don't have to do it in the same company. You can jump around. You can do many things, but most people's careers are split into those three. The career lasts over a long time. So this is not a 2-year career. This is just like a really long career. Now, in that stage, if you can choose what to do, if you start in the same job, like job archetype, for example, you become a software engineer. You can rise as software engineer to become senior, and then at this point, you are at the peak version of software engineering. To transition, you can say, I want to become a manager, or I want to become a staff person, and then you make the transition. But one thing I don't think it's good to do is you make mid-level engineer after 5 years and you're struggling, and you say, you know what, actually, I think product is a better deal for me. And then you switch into product. If you make that switch, you more likely start roughly around the beginning of it. You might have transferable skills, which gives you like some boost up. But preferably, if you're trying to grow through as quickly as possible, stick to the same thing.
mm,
If you're struggling with the transition from, let's say, mid-level to senior, there might be many things at play. One, your organization might not be the one that is the best at growing you, which means look for options. Second, you might actually not be doing a good job at growing yourself, which means become good at this everything we've been talking about so far. And the third thing could be that you might be a senior software engineer and there's no opportunity to do it. So you want to become a manager, but your company doesn't have managerial spaces. And when you're trying to go out to become another manager, they're like, yeah, we don't want any inexperienced manager. In that case, bite the bullet, move on to a different company that has the growth framework you need at the same level you're in, and then accelerate your career from there. But be honest with yourself in the nature of the situation that surrounds you.
okay. Wow. Thank you so much. Sorry, I was thinking about my own career. So okay. Someone sent this question. Starting out in tech, a career shift or transition, does age really matter for a junior role? I don't know, Mr. Amuiwa. Seems you want to.
Um, this is probably a cultural thing, right? From where I'm standing,
Okay.
the short answer is no. It doesn't matter. That's the short answer. There are caveats to this,
Hmm.
because Tobiwa touched on something that you need to. Those earlier years are the years of fast pace, right? You need to do a lot, and if you have a lot more responsibilities, it's probably going to be a bit more difficult for you, and you need to be aware of that. You need to have the awareness that okay, it's probably going to be a bit more difficult, but personally, it doesn't really matter. I've seen people who are like 45 and they're like they've been coding for just 2 years, right? I've seen it, lots of it. I used to mentor in a boot camp previously, back when you could do a boot camp and get a job within 2 months, and there were lots of like early days of COVID, right? In a boot camp in Canada, and I used to do that remotely, and there were lots of 40-year-olds, 45-year-olds, career people who have been doing something entirely different, musicians and stuff, and they changed, and they all, at least the ones that I had contact with, they all did super well, and they all got jobs like within 2, 3, 4 months. Again, early COVID, there was a lot of money around in tech, so it was very jobs were abundant. In fact, the Canadian government was sponsoring the bootcamp because they needed to fill a lot of IT roles. So take that with that caveat. But the short answer is no. Age does not matter. It's about how you apply yourself and what you want to do. It's about you. It's not about your age. I don't like some people don't even put the year of birth on their CV. Like I don't even think I have it on my CV. I don't think I have my year of birth on my CV. But again, it's a cultural thing, right? In Nigeria, it might be different, where like you have to put your date of birth and all of that on your CV, and I don't know if that plays a role. I can't really speak to that as I've never actually applied for a Nigerian company, so I can't speak to that. But outside of in a Western context, no, age does not matter. Nobody cares. It's what can you do? What have you done? Like, what's the proof that you want to start doing this? Okay, how do we know you can't do this? What's the proof? Show them the proof. Let them see stuff you've done. Stuff like you said, stuff running in production. Some gem that you wrote from wrapper around some APIs that people are installing and using. Some fix you made in the React code base and contributed to open source React. Some stuff you did. They want to see that. Nobody cares about your age here.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So we're running out of time, but there's another question here. Say, how do I deal with imposter syndrome as an entry level developer? Mr. Tomiwa, in 30 seconds.
So, well, it depends. Do you have a job? Do you not have a job? If you don't have a job, go and get the proof of having the job. So I always try to tell people not to identify as entry level developers because it limits the mind your mindset in what is expected out of you. I say everyone should aim to become a regular independent software engineer in your first job. So that if you come with the expectation that nobody's going to teach you or nobody's going to do anything, you're forced to do a lot of research into knowing how these things work. So the first one is don't identify as an entry level developer. Instead, try to figure out what's the delta between you and becoming a regular developer. Study, practice, do all these things, and then become that person.
Okay.
If you have a job and you still feel like you still have imposter syndrome, the good thing is, the sad thing is, it happens to every one of us. So I'll just say, I'll just assume that it happens to everyone, and you're not the only one that is happening to, and just keep pushing until the point where you're good. So fake it till you make it.
Huh?
One good trick that I found is document things you've done, things you've achieved, and when you feel like you just go back and say, "Hey, I did this, I did this, I did this." Remind yourself of things you've done. Like if you have a job, that is, like, remind yourself of things you've done when you're feeling bad. It happens to the best of us.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. So someone says, how do you navigate a high pressure tech startup environment with limited software quality assurance resources, excessive workload, and expectations of extra hours, while also lacking opportunities for growth and development? Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That brings memories. Um, Tomiwa, do you want to speak to this?
Well, I generally like high pressure work environments because high pressure means high growth. Low pressure usually means very little growth. So I like it. Um, the second caveat was limited QA resources. The good thing with software engineering is you can QA your stuff, write tests. So in my company, for example, it's a 2,000 people strong company, and we prioritize engineering talent over QA talent. I don't know if we have that role. I don't think we have the role. And yet we build things every day. So we invest heavily in testing. Like there's many ways to do testing. that make sure you don't actually even need an active QA thing. So, and the last part was the expectations of extra hours. Now, that's the one that's tricky. Um, how did the expectation come in? Maybe the person can share a bit of how the expectation for extra hours come in. It could be a bad management style that expects you to work extreme hours, but I'd rather say let's focus on what you need to do and figure out creative ways to get it done quicker as opposed to working longer hours.
Okay. Yes, because okay, sorry for interrupting because we've had a similar session like this where someone asked that um the question was very similar to this, and that during performance evaluation she expects that at least met expectation or exceed expectation would be like the result of the evaluation. But it seems like people that are spending extra hours are the ones like getting that kind of, so like the conclusion was that it was our assumption. She never really it was never a request. I don't know if you get what I'm trying. It was never really um a requirement. And some was that she had to have she had to like sit with her manager to really iron things out, the expectations, and how to meet the expectation that our manager had. Okay, so there's one more question here. For a person who is changing a career path, like from mechanical engineering to cybersecurity, what do you suggest that I do to create visibility by making people know that I am now into cybersecurity, oh, please, oh, and so that I can land a good job? So what should she do? Should she do that in that LinkedIn? Is what you suggested the other time? We were.
I
Should
mean, that
she?
was talking about, but it's the same. It's the same principles, right?
Okay, the same.
It's the same principles. Do actual work. I'm not so familiar with cybersecurity, but look for vulnerabilities in things and actual things, right? Call those vulnerabilities out. Write about what how you found it. Write about what they can do. Do some bug bounty. Do those kind of things. Do some threat modeling. Like there are people who they don't even have a job. This is what they do for a living, especially in cybersecurity space. Like they just go look for vulnerabilities and they
Yes,
get
yes,
paid. Yes, and that's their full time job, right? And
yes.
they don't need anybody to employ them. You can start doing that and
Mm,
make sure you document it along the way. Very, very important, right? It's the same principle, whatever it is you're doing in the tech space. We have that unique opportunity, right? It's not like medicine, like if you're a doctor, right? You can't really do live doctor work because nobody's gonna tell you to go do operation or like a surgeon, right? That's one of the unique things we have in tech is that you can do it. Nobody's gonna stop you from doing it. You can do it, right? As a lawyer, you can't just say I'm a lawyer and then go practice law, right? It's they're gated, right? But tech is not, and so if you put the effort into it, then that's what you need. We have that very unique opportunity within tech.
okay, okay. Thank you so much. So I think we've covered every question now. I think my last question as we wrap up is what career mistakes do tech professionals make based on your experience? What are the missteps that often hurt career progression and how can they be avoided? From your own perspective, Muiwa, you've been a manager, okay, you were an IC, you were you switched to management and then you switched back to IC. Are there any things you found out that you wish we could like you wish we knew about and um maybe do better or avoid doing or something like that?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's one of the reasons I switch is because I switch back is because the role has evolved beyond my expectation and beyond what I want for myself in the next phase,
Sorry,
and the
which role?
position.
Sorry, which of your roles? Is it
The engineering manager role as
okay?
in the company has evolved beyond what beyond like my expectation and beyond where I want to be next, and I made a conscious decision to take a step back and focus more on an individual contributor role because being a manager is not a very easy thing because you're not responsible for your own output, you're responsible for the output of so many other people. And I'm
Yes.
just in the place where I don't want to do that for now. I want to just go back and be an IC and focus, talk to the machine essentially.
Mm.
um, and have that you know. But to go back to the question, the common mistakes that people make is probably one of the things is chasing titles instead of chasing growth, right? It's a very common thing that people do.
Sorry, what is growth? What exactly is growth if it is not titled? I just want us to
No,
clear.
growth is that the scope of what you're doing is growing, and the level of your productivity and how well you're doing things is also getting better, right? If you're writing the same code you were writing 6 months ago today, you've not grown, because you should always learn new things, right? Again, another thing about the tech world is you're always going to be learning new things. The law is the law, so we have a couple of changes every year, right? But people sometimes forget that titles, sometimes they're just titles. Sometimes a senior engineer somewhere is not even doing as much work, or doesn't even have just more scope as a mid-level somewhere else. They always forget that, right? Like I said, when I was a senior engineer at Shopify, right, that the first 6 or 8 months I was there was like mad work, and then we got a team reshuffle, and then I was in a team. I was like, this is mid-level work. I can't be doing this. Like this is not going to help me grow, right? And so you have to avoid chasing titles over chasing growth. I'm not saying don't chase titles, but those titles should come with growth. It should come with, and I think that's what Tomura was talking about. Then it's like the scope. You should not be like lesser scope. With like then what are you? You're doing a disservice to yourself, because by the time you then want to go interview somewhere else after like 3 years, you realize, oh man, what was I doing? And they start telling you the things they're expecting you to bring, and you realize you don't have those things because, well, you never actually were a senior engineer. You were just a senior engineering title. You actually
Hmm.
did not grow, right? And there's no greater disservice you can do to yourself in your growth than that. Um, Another thing that people often don't do, and I don't know why, is they don't seek feedback often and act on those feedback. I don't know why people don't do this a lot. Maybe people are always afraid that they might get negative feedback or something. I don't know why, but for me, feedback is my bread and butter, right?
Hmm.
I live for feedback. I live for getting feedback, and I live for giving feedback. Yeah, I absolutely love and adore it. It's one of the first things I would, if I'm meeting someone one on one, if I'm doing my first one on one, this is what I talk about is feedback is important, because without feedback you cannot grow, right? You don't you have a tunnel vision, right? It's like that image of the rhinoceros drawing himself, and then there's a horn, and then every drawing the horn is always there. So for him, the horn isn't everything he sees, right? But somebody else looking at you from outside can see things that you cannot see and can always give you feedback, and that's how you would grow. It's people don't ask enough for feedback, and they don't give enough feedback. And for me, please, that's not something you should get into. And maybe this one is also I wouldn't, but something I will also talk about is not being clear about what you want, about your expectations, right? People get into a new role, or they have a new manager. They don't set expectations. They just sort of go with the flow. Um, or like you're working on something, you just go with the flow. You don't clarify. You don't set expectations. You don't ask things. You don't ask clarification questions. You don't ask open-ended questions. You just roll with it. Please don't roll with it.
Ah.
If you roll with it, you'll be rolled away. You need to be very intentional about things that you're doing. You need to be very intentional, right?
Hmm.
Don't assume he knows, like he knows. No, say it, document it, document it, right? One of the things I used to do early years when I started engineering manager was, after every meeting I would go to Slack, right? That's the how I first started it, as discussed, and then I put like everything there, and then this evolves into Confluence, and then I'll take it to Confluence, and then document it, and then I share it. Like, don't assume that everything that was said in the meeting is understood by everybody. No, please document it. Make sure it's clear. Always don't assume that people know things. Always communicate and always set expectations. Don't roll with things. Never roll with things. As Nigerians, sometimes we tend to do this, and we just like go with the flow. It's gonna go happen. No, please be intentional and about making things happen. I would just stop there because of time.
Okay, thank you so much. That was like a lot. Wow. I need to go and think about my life now. Okay, Tomiwa. Okay, just don't deal with us too much. Just small, small. Don't break the table completely.
Okay, so the question was around career mistakes. I
Yes.
think
Okay, go ahead.
career mistakes, the biggest career, okay, one career mistake I would say that he's already touched on somewhat is staying in the same team when it no longer serves you.
Hmm.
So most organizations have multiple teams. You when you join, you're usually part of one. If you're lucky, managers might change or team structures might change, which pushes you around. But sometimes there's situations where you're in a correct team and it's not giving you the kind of opportunities you want. But there are other opportunities in the company. You have the option to ask your manager about it and try to make the change. And they will not see it as a bad thing. They will not try to convince you to stay or not stay. If there's a better opportunity in the company for them, for you, in the overall structure of the organization wants you to be in the most productive place possible. So you should always ask for those type of opportunities if you find them. That's the thing I'll talk about.
Okay, okay, okay. Yes. Okay, I think thank you so much for that. I think we've come to the end of today's session.